did. See, it's right here.
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I can't hold my alcohol. And
We got here.
it's, yeah. It's that sense of writing from a place of freedom and wanting to do what I wanted to do. And I think I say that because in comparison to Half of a Yellow Sun, the book before it, I didn't have a sense of duty. I didn't feel constrained by a kind of burden, which of course was sort of self-made, but still there.
The burden of history on the second book.
The burden of getting it right. The burden, I felt just deeply responsible, you know. With Americana, I didn't. With Americana...
You were free.
I was free. I was free, I wanted to break the rules. I didn't want to be dutiful. So I wanted to write about my take on America, and much of it was about race. And much of the writing about race I just found to be dishonest. I would read some fiction and be like, no, right? And it seemed to me also quite ideological. You know, that idea that, you know, the sort of thing like race is just a social construction, but all of that. And I just felt that...
Yeah, you don't put up with liberal cant and jargon, whether it's on subjects of feminism or race at all, despite politics.
I don't. I almost think that the left is creating its own decline. I think the left doesn't know how to be a tribe in the way the right does. The left is cannibalistic. It eats its own. You know, I mean, this isn't going to sound very kind, but...
We're not here for kindness.
People on the left, you know, so there's something to be said, of course, for ideals, and I believe very much in that. But I think when one speaks about politics, sometimes there can be a kind of an extremist idea of purity. And it's so easy to fall afoul of the ridiculously high standards set there. And there's often also a kind of self-righteousness. I mean, you follow the rules, and if you don't, you're cut down very quickly.
And you've had this happen to you.
I have.
What's the most painful one?
I think it was my comments about transgender women. It wasn't even, I mean, in some ways I think...
You should maybe explain what...
So I had done an interview in London, and this woman had said to me, I don't remember the question, but what I did say was that I think trans women are trans women, and that I think there's a difference between trans women and women who are born female. And apparently in liberal orthodoxy, you're not supposed to say that, because in the quest for inclusiveness, the left is willing to discard a certain kind of complex truth. And I think there's a quickness to assign ill intent.
How did the blowback come at you?
Tons of emails from friends saying, hope you're doing well. and you know, and don't worry, we have your back. And, you know, just take this time off and get a massage. And you know, and because...
In other words, they were on Twitter and you weren't.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I knew it was bad because I was getting all these messages. It was as though somebody had died, seriously.
Yeah.
And, you know, initially I didn't take it seriously because I thought, surely, nobody thinks that, I mean, I sort of feel that the space I occupy in the world is one that is, of course, for inclusiveness, right? That, of course, I couldn't possibly be suggesting that trans women are not part of feminism, which apparently had been how it had been seen.
Right.
But I think it was simply that I didn't use the language I was supposed to use. But really, I was getting these emails. Seriously, friends sent me flowers. And
it's nice to know they care.
Well, they did, but then I thought, my God, what is going on? And then, you know, my publishers were inundated with, you know, interview requests. There were people who were like, does she want to take her words back now? And I just thought, what? And in some ways it wasn't, and then I did public events where there's a woman who stood up and lectured me for 30 minutes about how I was killing trans women and how I had no compassion and how I needed to shut up. The response is not to debate, the response is to silence. And I find that very troubling. I guess I'm just a person who thinks that the answer to bad speech is more speech, in general.
So the classic liberal view of speech.
I do. I feel that way because I spoke to a young woman who obviously didn't agree with me, and she said, oh, we want to protect. She said to me, she was white, but she said, you know, I have black friends in my college, and we want to protect them. And I said, it's very strange because America is a country that is steeped in racism. So how are you protecting this young woman in a college by not having a speaker come when she steps out into the world, into the American world, she's stepping out into racism.
Now one of your biggest discoveries is when you came here was that there was a thing, there was blackness.
Yes.
Which you did not experience
No.
in Nigeria.
No, there was no reason for me to think of myself as black in Nigeria.
So this came to you as a shock or a comedy or some
as both.
Yeah.
All of those things. I mean, racism I found funny, absurd, infuriating.
How did you experience it?
The first time I wrote an essay in a class, my very first essay, and at the time I used my initial and my last name. And my last name, I think, could be anything. Some people sometimes tell me it could be Italian. So the professor came into the class and said, who wrote this essay? All right, and he called my name, and I raised my hand, and he looked surprised. And even though it was a very small moment, that's when I knew what being black meant. It meant that you're not supposed to write the best essay in class if you're black. Mm-hmm. It meant that black achievement is considered so rare, so, you know.
The violence of low expectation.
I was irritated by that. Because for me, growing up in Nigeria, you know, black achievement is ordinary. And there was a part of me that wanted to say, this man is, you know, really, I was saying it in my head, you're stupid, right? But then it became other things. It became, I remember once a black guy referred to me as sister. And my first reaction was, no, 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 I'm not your sister. And you know, I talk about that now because
you thought it was rude?
No, no. It was me backing away from blackness because I knew that in America, blackness is a bad thing. So in some ways, my denying my sisterhood with him was, it's an indictment of American racism. You know, if being black in America didn't come with a lot of crap, I wouldn't have said, no, no, I'm not your sister. And now, now I want to find him and hug him and say, I am so your sister, right? Mm-hmm. But it took, and so in some ways, blackness is, so America thrusts it on you in the way that, you know, I remember in college, I was in a class and I was the only black person, and I remember somebody saying, the black girl. And I thought, oh, that's what I am, the black girl. So you sort of, that's thrust on you. But I think a kind of internalizing of that identity is something you have to do consciously. And I did that by reading African-American history, by trying to understand, because I didn't really understand America. I didn't understand in my first few weeks why the two black people in one of my classes got offended when somebody said something about watermelons. Because I thought,
you didn't know the reference points.
I was like, what's wrong with watermelons? Why is that a bad thing, right?
Right.
So it took reading and learning and a kind of consciously taking on that identity, which I think in many ways is also a political identity.
Do you feel American?
No. No. I don't understand baseball.
I think there are a lot of people that don't understand baseball.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Chimamanda, thank you. I couldn't be happier.
Thank you.